Welcome back to all the returning congregants. Welcome to our new members. And those of you still sitting on the fence, shul jumping or looking at us in a serious way, you're in the right place. You can climb off the fence, stop your wanderings, and rest your weary souls. I think that most of us are weary nowadays. In the words of Thomas Paine, these are the times that try men's souls. As we approach Rosh Hashanah, we can look back and conclude that the year gone by has been exceptionally challenging. For me, the most painful in my 35-year career. In addition to whatever personal losses we may have suffered this year, massive waves of heartbreaking news crash daily upon our battered hearts, filling us with powerful emotions: rage, anger, sadness, grief, and acute anxiety for Israel, American Jews, and the United States itself during this tense and anxious election season. Always present is this vague sense of powerlessness, of not being in control. What can one person do? What can one community do? We have this unsettling feeling that, as Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, things are in the saddle and ride mankind. That is, events are driving history. We're not in the saddle is on us. Neither we nor our leaders can truly manage what happens. How to deal with all this pain and uncertainty? Our inclination, even in more tranquil times, is to shut out and shut off other people's problems. I have my own problems. There's only so much room in my heart left for the challenges of other people. And what can one person do anyway? This week's Torah portion, Ki Teitzeh, offers profound guidance. It details dozens of laws and commandments, the most of any parsha. At the end of a passage requiring returning lost animals, we read three of the most important words of Judaism, words that every Jew should know and take to heart, especially during anxious times. If you see your fellow's ox or sheep gone astray, do not ignore it. You must take it back to your fellow. If he doesn't live near you, or you don't know who he is, you shall bring it home, and you shall return it when your fellow claims it. And when you see him, then you shall return it to him. You shall do the same with anything that your fellow loses. And then three Hebrew words. Lo tuchal lihitalem. You must not remain indifferent. Now, those who have had the pleasure to study Torah, and I don't know if it's pleasurable to study Torah with me. You know that I often say, this is the most important verse that you should remember. It's the most important verse in the Bible. And 7 dozen verses later, I'm still saying that. So, if you remember nothing else from this sermon, remember those three Hebrew words. Lo tuchal lehitalem. You shall not remain indifferent. The Torah didn't need to add these words. Don't be indifferent. The essence of the command to return lost animals would have been the same without those three words. It adds nothing prescriptive to the obligation to return lost property. So the question arises, why add those words in the first place? Don't remain indifferent. The answer, I think, is that these Hebrew words are the underlying rationale for every Jewish commandment. They are the glue, the connecting tissue, not only to what seems like a parsha of dozens of random obligations and mitzvahs, but the affirmation, do not remain indifferent, is the essence of the entire mitzvah system. Do not turn away. Even when it comes to your fellow's property, you have an obligation to care. If you know it belongs to someone else, finders, keepers does not apply. The foremost biblical commentator Rashi explains the word lehitalem as making oneself invisible. Lo tochal lehitalem. You cannot make yourself invisible. You cannot cover your eyes. You can't pretend not to see the straying animal. You can't say it's not my problem. The Torah teaches that once you've noticed the problem, it is your problem. Accept the responsibility. This is one of Judaism's central pleas. Do not remain indifferent. We read in the Torah that the first human instinct is to evade responsibility. The first. It's not my fault, God, Adam said. I ate the forbidden fruit because of this woman that you put beside me. She gave me the fruit, so I ate it. And Eve said, it's not my fault, God. The serpent duped me, and I ate. Both Adam and Eve insisted it wasn't their fault. Both denied responsibility. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the snake, and the snake, not being human, blamed no one. Because blaming others for your own inadequacies is a uniquely human trait. As a result, the first humans were expelled from paradise. And in some respects, the entire history of humanity is about regaining what was lost on that day. Paradise lost. Paradise regained. After Adam and Eve ate of the forbidden fruit, we read that God called out to Adam and said to him, Ayeka, where are you? Where are you? Is God's challenge to every generation. You are responsible for yourself and for others. In a university-level philosophy class, the professor asked one of his students, what's the biggest problem of life? Ignorance or indifference? And the student responded, I don't know, and I don't care. Judaism insists you must know and you must care. You cannot pretend to be ignorant. You cannot cover your eyes and make yourself invisible, and you cannot be indifferent. Indifference deadens the soul. To be indifferent means I don't want to feel. And if you remove feelings from the human being, what is left is something less than human. Pain, mourning, anxiety, sorrow, even anger, as difficult as these are, indicate that we're still alive inside, that our souls are still active, that we still have feelings. Indifference is the death of us. Indifference fortifies and gives succor to injustice. Evildoers count on numbing our senses, reducing us to not caring, so that they may more easily carry out their malevolent designs. There's a beautiful verse about Pharaoh's daughter when she finds the baby Moses in a basket on the Nile. Her father had just decreed the first genocide of the Jewish people. The verse says, and Pharaoh's daughter opened the basket, and she saw the infant crying, and she took pity on him. Commentators point out that when Pharaoh's daughter opened the basket, she saw the crying. Most people only hear the crying. But Pharaoh's daughter saw the crying. And it was this that caused her to have compassion upon Moses and to pity him. Compassion, mercy, pity, the capacity to peer deeply into another person's soul, to not only hear their cries, but to see their cries. This is what frees us from the matrix of self-absorption. But you know, even compassion, sensing and feeling another person's suffering, even that is not enough. As Susan Sontag reminded us, compassion is an unstable emotion. It needs to be translated into action or it withers. Constant exposure to the pain of others desensitizes us. If we are to build a better world, a more peaceful, prosperous, and just society, if we are to rectify past injustices, to relieve the pain of others, to give dignity to the oppressed, to set the nation and humanity on an upward trajectory of moral progress, we must focus not only or even primarily on another's pain. Rather, we must focus on our own remedial actions. Compassion is not enough. It's an unstable emotion. It needs to be translated into deeds. This is classic Judaism. We cannot change the world by ourselves. The sages remind us that we are not required to finish the task, but neither are we free to desist. Try to do something every day that makes one life better. George Eliot said it beautifully. If you sit down at the set of sun and count the acts that you have done, and counting, find one self-denying deed, one word that eased the heart of him who heard, one glance most kind, that fell like sunshine where it went, then you may count that day well spent. Amen.